In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote.
Well, I think that was a classic Trumpism.
I think he's obviously making a joke.
He's trying to tell the Christian community and anybody else who's listening the nightmare that we're experiencing will soon be over.
If you want a clip to show your friends just how completely unequipped American media is to deal with fascism, this is the one. On Friday, Donald Trump clearly stated that if you vote for me, you won't have to vote anymore. It'll be fixed. Don't worry about it later. In 4 years, it'll be fixed. It'll be fine. I'm going to play that clip, and I'm going to get to 3 examples from American media on Sunday where Republicans were asked about this, and then the media completely dropped the ball. No follow-ups, allowing these politicians to spew their garbage answer, which, by the way, all different answers. It's funny how they don't even have a proper, a singular story to excuse what Trump said. All different answers. No real response to what actually happened, and then they move on. So first I'm going to show the clip from, again, this is from Friday, Trump giving a speech in Florida.
And again, Christians, get out and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote.
All right. Now, before I get to the meat of this, I want to point out another thing that stood out to me, because it sounds like he says there, I'm not Christian, which would be an odd thing to say to a bunch of Christians when you're telling them to vote. So I read a quote, I believe The Guardian quoted him as saying, I'm a Christian, but it really sounds like he says, I'm not Christian. Regardless, let's say he did say, I'm a Christian. It's an odd thing to have to reaffirm to people in the middle of your speech like this. He must be a little self-conscious about the fact that he clearly doesn't actually feel like a Christian if he is one. I mean, go back to his favorite quote about the Bible, or from the Bible. I like all of it. It's just like, it's my second favorite book after mine. He clearly, regardless, I don't care how religious, non-religious he is. The point is, he's just a big phony. But on the point about voting, it'll be fixed. You won't have to worry about voting. It'll be fixed in 4 years. Just make sure you vote now. Imagine Kamala Harris said this. Imagine any Democrat said this. Doesn't matter what position they're in. There would be a firestorm. Media would be going crazy. Every single Democrat interviewed on every single network would be, the first question they'd be asked about is, do you denounce this authoritarian in your party? Do you agree with their perspective that this will be the last time you'll have to vote? Are you an authoritarian? Like, they would be pressed and pressed and pressed over this comment. But it's Donald Trump. Oh, one question to a few of these members of the GOP, and then they move on. Again, I'll get to that. It is just so incredible to see how low the bar is, where this is barely news. Yeah, there's some coverage of this, but it's Monday now. No one's talking about it anymore. Like, this is a big effing deal, and apparently it's just, oh, whatever. It's Donald Trump, you know, the dictator. What's the big deal? It's so weird to see how media and just people generally just get used to things, where we become accustomed to the fact that this guy is an authoritarian, and it's no longer a topic of conversation. It's insane. So it's important not to get comfortable with that fact, by the way. Kamala Harris released a statement from her campaign saying here, when Vice President Harris says this election is about freedom, she means it. Our democracy is under assault by criminal Donald Trump. After the last election Trump lost, he sent a mob to overturn the results. This campaign, he has promised violence if he loses, the end of our elections if he wins, and the termination of the Constitution to empower him to be a dictator to enact his dangerous Project 2025 agenda on America. Donald Trump wants to take America backward to a politics of hate, chaos, and fear. This November, America will unite around Vice President Kamala Harris to stop him. Now, the Trump campaign reacted to questions about this, saying, or as ABC News writes here, the Trump campaign released a statement clarifying what the former president might have meant with his message to Christian voters. His campaign suggested he was talking about the importance of faith, uniting the country, and bringing prosperity. President Trump is talking about the importance of faith, uniting the country, and bringing prosperity to every American, as opposed to the divisive political environment that that has sowed so much division and even resulted in an assassination attempt by a Republican, not mentioned here. Trump campaign spokesperson Stephen Chung wrote in a statement. What does this have to do at all with the part about you won't have to vote anymore? So this is clearly not a defense of what was said, because they're just completely ignoring that portion. Let me get to some reactions. All right. So first, let's get to Chris Sununu, who was interviewed and asked about this, and watch how terribly the host here deals with this, or doesn't at all, and just moves on.
President Trump facing some backlash for those comments Friday night, saying his supporters won't have to vote again in 4 years. I'm joined now by the Republican governor of New Hampshire, Chris Sununu. Governor, what the heck did he mean there?
Well, I think that was a classic Trumpism, if you will. I think he's just trying to make the point that this stuff can be fixed. Obviously, we want everybody to vote in all elections, but I think he was just trying to make a hyperbolic point that it can be fixed as long as he gets back into office and all that. But classic Trump right there.
Okay, and just days. Let's turn to President Biden and Kamala Harris. Just days before President Biden.
This is insane. You have to sit with this and realize how crazy it is that this is the media reaction to this. Look, as a Canadian, I can't even imagine if there was a potential prime minister who was interviewed or giving a speech and talked about, make sure you vote this time. You'll never have to vote. If you vote this time, it'll be fixed. You won't have to vote anymore. I can't even imagine it. It would be madness. It would be nonstop coverage for weeks, months, until he has to force to step down and be replaced by somebody else. Yet here, this is the reaction. One question, then she moves on immediately to a different topic. Are you insane? The candidate for president just said it'll be fixed. Why isn't this a bigger story? And to laugh it off like that, like he's saying, oh, he's just, Donald Trump was just a classic Trumpism. He was just saying, it could be fixed. And he's the one that wants to do that. It is so insane. Please do not let this be normalized. It is not normal to have an authoritarian be this open and it get no coverage or coverage like this in the press. It's completely insane. Here is Lindsey Graham on Face the Nation.
Senator, just a minute here, quickly.
Yeah.
Democrats say the former president is trying to take the reins of the entire democratic system here with these comments. You're laughing. What do you believe he's trying to say? What's the truth?
He's trying to tell the Christian community and anybody else who's listening, the nightmare that we're experiencing will soon be over. Give me 4 more years and I'm going to right this ship called America and pass it on to the next generation. We will have democracy, God willing, for a very long time in this country. But what President Trump is trying to tell people, I did it once, I can do it again. These problems can be
Senator
solved,
Graham,
but you got to go in a different direction.
Senator Graham, we always appreciate your time. Many thanks, and we'll be right back.
This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. Not only did they move on, he actually was trying to cut Lindsey Graham off from having to answer for this so that they could go to commercial. What the fuck is going on? This is absolutely insane. I have one more clip here. This is going to be Jake Tapper on CNN talking with Tom Cotton.
How did you interpret that remark? I think he's obviously making a joke about how bad things have been under Joe Biden and how good they'll be if we send President Trump back to the White House so we can turn the country around again. That's what the American people know. For 4 years, things were good with President Trump. We had stable prices, a growing economy, peace and stability around the world. Under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, everything has gone to hell. And it will be much worse under Kamala Harris. Just look at her record. She wants to ban private health insurance. She wants to ban fossil fuel production. She wants to ban guns. She even wants to ban plastic straws.
Not all guns, some kinds of guns.
She wants to forcibly confiscate guns without even an act of Congress to do so. Kamala Harris is a dangerous liberal. She makes Joe Biden look competent and moderate by contrast.
I want to ask you about something that Senator Vance said.
Not only did Tom Cotton not answer the question, he was allowed to spew a bunch of bullshit in the process. And at no point did Jake Tapper come in and say, this has nothing at all to do with the question. Can you answer why Donald Trump is clearly an authoritarian? Can you answer why he is saying it's going to be fixed? You won't have to vote anymore. Why is he telling Republican voters that? Again, and then moves on. It is, look, this is maybe one of the worst examples of American media that I've ever seen. And I'll give credit where it's due. Jake Tapper isn't always this shitty. Martha Raddatz isn't always this shitty. These people aren't always this shitty. But this is absolutely, has to be the perfect example of how terrible American media is when they are faced with fascism. They have no idea how to deal with this. They have no idea how to actually just ask basic questions, how to press politicians about it. Thank God, Joe Biden dropped out and Kamala Harris is going to be the nominee, because otherwise you have this shitty ass media marching people into fascism. Hopefully, Kamala Harris is able to generate energy and enthusiasm, and it appears she already is, but enough to defeat this garbage in November.